I have
Yes.
gone through your application and I know a fair bit about you, I would say, but I would like to know you better as a person. So help me with that. Can you tell me something which is not there in the application which I can benefit by knowing?
So as it's mentioned in my application that I completed my engineering in 2022, and after that I started working as a software engineer at Salesforce. And I was working there till last year, and I decided to appear for this exam again with full focus. So I left my job, and I was working from home in my job, and I decided to move to civil services because I felt that I could work in sectors related to women and education more. And as my hobbies are mentioned, I like to read, and I like to read mythology and fiction, English fiction.
Hmm.
And I also debated during college, but I've not debated in some time because I've been preparing.
Very well. So, Pratami, why do you think you deserve to be chosen for this profile? I mean, there are other competent candidates as well. Would you claim you are better? And in what ways?
I think that I totally agree that there are many competent candidates. However, I do think that I can be a good administrator, and I can provide good I can be a good candidate in this because firstly I have a technical background, and I studied in a very male dominated field, and I think that I learned a lot from my experiences. I think technology is being included a lot more into administration. And secondly, I think I have a good understanding of how what it is like to be how Indian society has has that element of of being a woman in that area. So I think that also brings a new perspective. Civil services is also including more and more women. Plus I think that my skill sets align better here because I am a person, I like to work on ground, which is not being offered in my tech job that I had before.
Very well. Uh, do you also have any weaknesses which you think I should be aware of as an employer?
I think that I might have some weaknesses like any person. But I think that one of the things that I can say is that sometimes I might become very focused towards a certain goal, which can take a toll on my mental health sometimes. So I have to ensure that I prioritize things in a way that it does not affect me personally. So I think
Hmm.
that is one of the things. Plus I think I'm sometimes quite competitive. So I have, because I have, my career has been in that way that I have been in competitive exams and appearing for jobs that are competitive. So I have become very competitive. So sometimes I think that is also one of the things that I need to work on. And I would say another thing is sometimes I can be a little closed off to people about how my own preferences and feelings. So that can be a thing, but I don't think that's a weakness for this job exactly.
Very well. Do you think mental health is increasingly becoming a societal challenge for us here in India? Not just, you personally, but as a society are grappling with mental health issues increasingly.
I think it's becoming a lot more relevant, and we are not paying as much attention to it because even if we look at young students who are like, we have cases of suicide among students, so that's an extreme thing that happens. But even in general, Indian students are very catered towards a rat race. So even as students, then when we grow up, we are becoming the society where we are increasingly having women who are more independent, and people in general are becoming more independent. So we are moving from a community based society to a more individualistic society, which brings a lot of issues of its own because humans in general are social animals, and it can be impacted on that. So we are seeing the epidemics of loneliness, so that's also an aspect. Plus, I've also seen recent cases of security personnel in our army, and they are engaging in, there have been cases where they have fired at their own other colleagues. So that's because they do a job that is like that. So we have to pay attention to mental health issues too.
Very well. So you are a woman, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Can you give me a sociological profile of the city?
Sociological profile of Delhi.
Yes.
I think that as a woman, I would say first of all, Delhi is known for being unsafe for women. However, I would like to actually start with that Delhi has a very vibrant youth culture where women are very active in taking part. So that is a very important thing that we miss often. Women are very active in circles among the youth, and are increasingly taking up leadership roles also. However, the element of security does come into play because our sex ratio is very skewed towards men, because of migration and other issues like that. So the issue is that women do not take up as much public spaces as men do still. So that's a sociological aspect of being a woman in Delhi. I think Delhi still has a higher literacy rate among women compared to other states, so that's a very good thing. But there is still a lot of scope for improvement. Plus, I think safety is priority currently.
Very well. Um, I also happen to be from the city. Could you suggest any unexplored places in Delhi where, which a Delhi possibly
Uh,
look at?
so uh, I think it's not exactly very unexplored, I would say, but one of my favorite places is Nehru Planetarium. I really like visiting that place. It's a very nostalgic place. And apart from that, I love visiting places that are related to architecture. So Lodi Gardens and all of these areas which have not just architecture but also places to hang out. So these are great places to be.
Okay. Uh, this the Yamuna River. Do you think there is any realistic possibility that it can be cleaned in your and my lifetime, or is it like a gone case?
Sure, I think that in my 25 years of being an Indian, we have the most difficult challenges that we seem to always overcome. We do things that are unexpected. So I definitely feel that Yamuna can be cleaned if the government and the citizens decide collectively that it has to stop being polluted. It can be cleaned fairly easily, in fact. However, the issue is that there has to be a way to remove industries from that area, which are the main pollutants of the Yamuna. So that can be a challenge because these industries employ a lot of people. So moving them away will cause a lot of friction with the people who are being employed by these industries. However, I
Hmm.
think it's a necessary evil currently if we move them further away and enforce the rules of treatment of waste that before being released into the Yamuna, then it can be a good alternative.
Coming to waste, we also see the forms of waste, like the Gazipur landfill site and several other such. What will it take to get rid of those very not so nice sites that are in Delhi?
I think that I would say that firstly, we need to ensure that it sounds like a humongous undertaking, but we have to ensure that there is separation of waste. That is not currently happening in Delhi. We have to separate recyclable waste and recycle as much as possible. Then we have to ensure that biodegradable things are sent to a compost facility, and things that cannot be done either like plastics that cannot be recycled have to be disposed of in a better, more scientific way rather than just being dumped in those areas. So I think that's a major challenge. Plus these landfills are also filling up, so we need even more space. So I don't think this is a very good solution for a long term perspective, since Delhi's population keeps on increasing and the waste will keep on piling up. So we
Hmm.
need a more solid solution that can solve these issues for the longer run.
Very well. And what could those technological solutions be, like which you mentioned for those, particularly non-recyclable wastes? What can we frankly do with it?
So, firstly, I think that plastic that cannot be recycled should actually be banned, as has been the rules also. However, it has not been currently banned, and these stay in the environment for a very long time. So, what can be done is that it can be collected, and currently, there are methods of creating partially biodegradable plastics using the older plastic bags or something of that sort. I'm not sure about the entire other inventions that have innovations that have been done in this area, but there are certain things that can be done, like creating some sort of sculptures and best out of waste. This is being done with plastics, but I think those are the only things that can be done after treatment. So the thing is that the plastic will not go out of usage. That's the maximum that can happen. So that's why we have to ensure that it is stopped being used, because the plastic that is being used from 1900s is still in the environment.
Hmm. Also, another issue that we face is pollution, air pollution specifically, and the administration has tried a lot of things. For example, the odd even scheme that was implemented. What is your take, Prastuti? Like, was it a correct move by the administration?
Uh, Sir, I think that the intention was fair, and the implementation is the issue was that there were so many exceptions already that it was not creating the desired impact that it was expected to create. Plus, Delhi has the issue that people have multiple cars, so they were just able to bypass the rule. I think what should be the approach is not odd even is only a very short term secondary solution that does not solve the issue. We have to attack all sources of pollution. So vehicular pollution is to be tackled by first of all ensuring that all the cars are and all the vehicles are pollution checked, and secondly actually ensuring that these cars are removed from the roads as much as possible. So public transportation, carpooling is encouraged. So actually, Delhi has a very good public transportation system in terms of metro, but end-to-end connectivity is still lacking a little bit. So like the e-rickshaws are a very good alternative because they run with electricity. Apart from that, the industrial pollution that is caused, like released into the air, odd even does not solve that. So there are multiple issues. Residential emissions also cause a lot of pollution. Plus, there's the addition of stubble burning, and all of these together form the issue of air pollution. So, just vehicular emissions might have declined if it had been very seriously implemented and if vehicles were not that much in Delhi. But these were not implemented in that way. Still, there were a lot of cars. So, I think this is the reason that odd even was not very successful, at least in terms of reducing pollution, which was the main aim.
Very well. And tell me, Prastuti, like, why haven't we seen a mass level adoption of electric vehicles? The technology has been there now for a while, but we haven't seen a mass adoption. So where is that gap?
So I think that firstly, I am seeing some people in my own circle, they are buying electric vehicles, but the preference is for vehicles that are electric also, but that they can also run on petrol and diesel. The reason for this is firstly, electric vehicles are slightly costlier than the petrol vehicles, so we always go for a good bargain, and that's why we don't want to pay that extra cost. Secondly, more importantly, when you buy a vehicle, you now people are traveling, going on road trips that are very long. They want something that if we do not have charging stations in other cities, people
Hmm.
might not want to prefer that if someone is traveling frequently, making a trip to another state every month. And these form a major chunk of our population who are traveling for business or other reasons every month or week to another state. So we lack the infrastructure. We might have that infrastructure in Delhi to a large extent, but if it's not present in the entire country, then it can become a deterrent for people buying that. So mostly the people who do buy the electric vehicles are families who are just traveling within the city, so they think that it's fine. But even then, they go for the option that it can run on petrol. So I think that's the reason that the infrastructure is not there for electric vehicles.
Very well. How do you look at moves like, banning crackers during festivities like Diwali or New Year's? Uh, that has also been, that is still being done every year. So is that something which, do you think that's a correct step by the administration to tackle pollution?
Sir, I think that India is very good at passing good laws, but not good at implementing it, because the issue is that firstly the cracker ban is not really implemented. People still burst a lot of crackers in Delhi. This is something we all observed during these periods. Secondly, the pollution that is caused by crackers is something that only happens for one day and 1 or 2 days, and then it clears away after that. However, the problem is that the as we discussed before, the major issues of pollution are not being tackled, that are industrial emissions, residential emissions, and you have other areas like vehicular emissions also, and stubble burning. So all of these are still there. I think cracker banning is fair. It's fine, but it's very difficult to implement in a city like Delhi. So at least we have to first implement it properly, but even then, it does not solve the issue of pollution in general. It might prevent the pollution that happens the next day to some extent.
Uh, should steps be taken to, stem the influx of migrants into the city? I mean, are they a part of the problem, if I may say so?
So I think firstly, they are exercising their constitutional right to reside to and work anywhere that they want to. The problem is not the migrants. It's fairly easy to blame it on the poor person who's coming here away from their homes. I think it's a structural problem. First of all, they come from states that have not been developed in the last 70 years at the same pace as other states. Mainly, we have UP, Jharkhand, Bihar, all of these areas. So, firstly, the issue is that these states have to provide employment opportunities to them so that they do not move to other places. Now, that's a national level issue. For Delhi, I would say that we do have a lot of migrants, and Delhi is still, we cannot deny that, although there's a constitutional right, we cannot deny that Delhi is a certain landmass that can only take a certain number of people. Water
Yes.
scarcity is increasing, and all of these issues are there. So I think that the best way is to firstly expand the idea of satellite cities. Like we had Gurgaon and Noida, but even Meerut can be developed for opportunities like these in Alwar. This is a possibility. However, this will only attract more migrants. The problem is that the employment opportunities in those states have to increase too. So I don't think they are the problem. They are also the victims of a system, I would say.
Very well. Uh, you think Delhi should be granted full statehood? Like, will that address a lot of issues that the city is perhaps facing?
Sir, I don't think it should have full statehood. I think that the system exists to ensure a certain goal. Delhi is the national capital, and it has a lot of important security and strategic locations in Delhi, including the parliament and other areas. So it's a power center, the political power center. So I don't think it should be a statehood, because central government should have a lot of say in Delhi because it's the capital of the country. However, I think that one of the things that should be done is that there should be clear delineation among the powers of the central government and state government, because we did see that there were a lot of clashes between the two. So I think that is one of the issues that have to be resolved between the two entities.
Very well. Prastuti, why is women's safety such a pressing issue in Delhi and has been for quite some time now? Particularly in public areas, we see that, there are
Yes,
huge
sir.
gaps in women's safety.
Yes, sir. Uh, so firstly, I think one of the issues that Delhi faces is that it has a large population, and it has an educated population, plus it is also the capital. All of these factors ensure that whenever the incidents happen in Delhi, they are amplified more than if they happen in other parts of the country. So it has become a self-fulfilling prophecy that Delhi was named as the rape capital, and now when things happen, it reinforces that. But we cannot deny that a real problem does exist vis-a-vis other cities also. I have been to Hyderabad, and I felt it was comparatively better. Women do not occupy public spaces in Delhi at the same rate. And I think that is one of the issues that Delhi has such a safety problem. So, one of the things that has to be focused on is to ensure that it is safe for women to travel at night and to occupy public spaces in general. So, uh, we have to ensure that firstly, the sex ratio is also very skewed. So, that has to be taken care of, and secondly, removal of any antisocial elements that exist on the streets of Delhi. So, if you have someone who is drunken at night and is creating an issue, that person should be removed from the roads of Delhi rather than ensuring that all the girls are sent home on time. Because the problem is not the woman, the problem is the person who creates an unsafe environment. So I think the approach of towards safety is also, it should not be to protect women but to empower women to feel protected in general.
So, Prastuti, what concrete steps can the administration take on an immediate basis, like to, make public places safer for women?
So I think that with the better steps that the administration can take are ensuring that there are regular night patrols in Delhi. First of all, I think this is very essential. Ensure that there's a woman officer in every patrol that is conducted by the police. Thirdly, in general, support like a better infrastructure in areas that have women. So like we have areas which are office areas, so women can be working late over there, so better facilities over there. Secondly, enforce public transportation that is safer. So I think metro is actually very safe. The problem is only when you get off the metro station, you have to walk or take a rickshaw home. So that is the unsafe part. So why is the metro safe? Because every 2 minutes you are reaching a new station. Plus there's security everywhere. So I think something of this sort to be implemented even in areas that are not really that safe right now can help women's safety in general. Plus, I would say awareness campaigns among schools and measures that were taken by Delhi police as the app that was launched for women's safety. So ensuring that works all the time and the response is quick. So these measures are of course appreciated and should be bolstered by the police.
Very well. Uh, does having a female chief minister make it better for women overall? I mean, does the gender of the person at the helm of affairs, does it matter?
Sir, I think that in general, having any woman in leadership position will always help in bringing a perspective of a woman in that situation. So I think that the element of a woman leader empathizing with her constituents would be higher. So I think that is something that will help. We have had women chief ministers before also, like Miss Sheila Dikshit. But the thing is that at the end of the day, it's about passing laws and implementing them properly. But I think that I am hopeful that having a female chief minister can help a lot in this issue.
Are you suggesting that women are more empathetic, women leaders?
I feel that in general we are more empathetic to problems we face ourselves. So I do not think that men are less empathetic, but think that if someone has experienced a similar incident, they would be more understanding. That's the general thing. However, it varies from person to person. We can have good leaders and bad leaders, so that is something that is variable and not really dependent on gender.
Very well, chaliye Lut, let's move on and talk about your educational experience. So you've done computer engineering.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Um, we you also mentioned earlier, like we hear so many cases of student suicides,
Mm,
particularly when they are preparing for the engineering entrance exams, in places like Kota in Rajasthan.
mm.
Can you give me a sociological analysis of these student suicides?
Uh, So I think that from the perspective of sociology, there is an element of societal pressure, first of all, that is manifested through parents putting pressure on these children. So there's an expectation that you have to succeed. It might be a little more on the on a male student because they are the son of the family. But I think now, as we're moving towards equality, we have it on female students too. So firstly that is there. Secondly, there's an illusion of not having any other choice. It's a do or die situation. You either clear the exam or you don't clear and you are branded a failure. So that is a problem. And thirdly, I would say there's this rising business that exists that can, in Kota especially, there are so many coaching centers that prey on students. So I think that also feeds into this issue of student suicide. So I think all of these culminate into it. Plus, they are at a very impressionable age, and the lack of any mental health resources, or because there's no time. I have been through that stage. I've appeared for JE myself. So there is no time to do anything except to study. Even there's no time to take care of your own health. So I think all of these factors end up leading to the situation where you are forced to take that step which should not be taken. So I think that's the reason.
So, Prastuti, if you were given charge of the administration in a place like Kota, tell me what concrete steps you will take to address this issue of student suicides.
So I think that this problem is something that has to be tackled. So even at the national level, you have the education policy, which is trying to move away from such exams, which are do or die situation. So that of course is there. However, as the district administrator, I think what can be done is to ensure that these students have access to resources like psychologists and career counselors, so psychologists to help them handle the pressure of these exams, and career counselors to ensure that they understand that this is not a situation which will change their life in a way that it cannot be saved after that. So children should have understand that there are a lot of other options. Of course, if you clear and get into an IIT, it's a great achievement, but that does not mean that if you don't do it, your life is over and you cannot do anything else. So there should also be exploration of other facilities, other subjects. And apart from that, I would say I would probably encourage these coachings to implement a certain period of time where they have to do sports or play games. This all of these things can help a lot with mental health. That's my personal experience too. So exercising and ensuring that you take a break. So all of these things are necessary. Plus, I would also ensure that there are no predatory tactics by the coaching institutes, and that the environment in which these students study is safe for the students.
Yes. In the beginning part of your response to this question, you had mentioned that there are national level efforts to reduce the level of competition. Could you just elaborate on that part a bit? What you meant by that?
Sir, I meant that the national education policy, so when it was introduced, there was a suggestion that there will be attempts to move away from one single exam that is as a point of entry into college courses. So we have the engineering exam JEE. So they were suggesting that we probably should move away from that system and have a more holistic system. Like in the US, you have not just the SATs, but also your extracurriculars and other things are also there. So all of that together ensures your admission into colleges. Now they have added two JEE exams. Earlier it was just one, so that's a good effort because it allows people to have like another chance at it. But at the end of the day, it's still two different exams. So I think it should be made more about not just one single exam that is so difficult to crack, but a general exam, and then apart from that, extracurricular in those fields that you have, like the like scientific fields. So children are encouraged to do internships, as has also been the aim in the NEP, that we want school students to do apprenticeships and internships to learn more about these fields.
Hmm. Prastuti, tell me, what was the gender ratio in your batch? Like, how many female and male students were there?
I am not sure about my entire batch, but in computer engineering in my class, there were 7 girls to 63 boys.
Yeah, and what accounts for this very abysmally low participation by female students in STEM fields in general, I would say.
So I think that firstly, I went to a good college. NSIT has a good cutoff in JEE. So you have to have a decent rank around 5,000 in JEE, means you have to be within that. The thing is, women in general participate less in engineering fields because there's also the societal thing that less women take up engineering because it's considered more of, they are discouraged from taking up science. Plus, it also requires a lot of
Why, if
investment.
I may ask?
I feel that the discouragement comes from the fact that women are, because it involves a lot of investment in general. You have to pay for coaching, you have to prepare for this exam, which is a major investment from the parents. They might be unwilling to make that financial investment. Secondly, there's an element of, especially in tier two or tier three cities, that what's the point of becoming an engineer? You're just a woman. You'll get married later on. So that can also be a disadvantage for other girls. There was a news article that parents had asked a girl to score, that she has to score at least 400 marks if she wants to take up science in 11th and 12th, and she scored 399. So they were not allowing her to take science, and teachers had to intervene. So this is the thing, that the loops that we have to cross as women are higher, and for many women it's even higher because their families are not supportive. So I think these
Hmm.
play into the idea that women do not take up STEM in general. Plus, that's why it's even lesser in other colleges that are more prestigious, because even less women make it through to the final list with a higher rank, because the investment was simply not the same. So
Hmm.
mm,
Prastuti, what is your understanding? Like, is there caste-based discrimination or bias in engineering education and the profession?
So I think that firstly, I would say I am not the best candidate to answer it, because I did not face it, obviously, because I'm not from a reserved category. However, I do think that there are complaints regarding it. So there is so recently the government has UGC has ensured that you have to implement certain rules to ensure that there's no casteism on campus and even during selections. However, I do have friends who were able to get great jobs on campus uh, because their performance in college was very good. So I think that merit plays a very good role, because companies at the end of the day want to make sure that they get the best employees. It's a private market where they have to maximize profits. So I think that that they would go for the best candidate, but I'm not denying that it can be definitely it can seep through, and it can be in latent forms possible that it exists.
Very well. Some state governments have also been attempting to promote engineering courses in regional languages.
Mm.
Are you aware of this development?
Yes, sir, I am.
Do you think that is something we should be doing like more forcefully, like pushing engineering education in regional languages, or should it continue to be primarily in English?
Sir, I think that so the issue was that there was a discussion about whether Tamil Nadu offers engineering courses in Tamil or not. The issue mentioned was that a lot of students study in Tamil medium schools where they primarily learn Tamil, and they suddenly have to switch to English when they move to engineering, which is at a very later stage that they're making that switch. Currently, the tech market in India is based off the fact that we have mostly companies from abroad who are setting up their offices here. We also have our own startups, but we are very enmeshed with the other companies from, say, the US or other countries like that. English provides a very good edge over other languages. So I think that while it can be promoted that there should be a regional language options, but I think that it's also a good thing that we should focus on certain professional courses being in English too, because that does provide an edge when you have to finally sit for placements and in the job market.
Very well. So after your engineering, you moved to Hyderabad for work.
So officially, my office was located in Hyderabad, but I wanted to prepare for UPSC, so I told them that can I do work from home. So they were okay with it because my team was spread all over the world and nobody went to office. So they said
Hmm.
you can stay home.
Was
So I
this during
stayed.
COVID?
I joined in 2022 June. I did my internship during COVID, so that time it was work from home automatically.
And
But
was it in the same organization, the
yes, sir.
internship?
Yes,
Okay. Which is what? Salesforce.
yes, sir.
Can you tell me about like what is the work culture at this place?
So, Salesforce, I only have good things to say about the work culture. I would say my team was incredibly understanding and supportive. In general, I felt that it was a very good company to work for. And I also had friends who were working for other big companies, but their experience was not as good as mine. However, the fact is also that it depends on who your manager is and things like what your team is like. So I think my team was definitely a lot more supportive than some other team at Salesforce. It can be a difference, but in general, I would say the attitude among colleagues in Salesforce was very supportive, and they would help you a lot. So I had a good experience.
Prastuti, like for private companies, like who should be, the primary recipient of organizational focus? Should it be the customers or should it be the employees?
Um, I think that the priority should be ensuring good customer service. However, I think that when you want to ensure good customer service, I personally think that you have to ensure good employee culture also, because if that is not there, the customers would get affected. I think that if a company wants to prioritize good market performance in general, the highest productivity that is achievable is by ensuring that your employees are protected and they feel that they are working in a good environment. So that motivates them and that encourages more innovation, and it also results in customer satisfaction, which should be primary for any of our private company, I think.
Very well. Correct me if I'm wrong. This Salesforce, it provides basically CRM
Yes,
software.
sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So could you tell me, like, to a layman, could you tell me the basics of CRM
So
in a
it's a
summary kind of a form?
So it's a B2B company mainly. It's business to business. So the company sells its softwares to other businesses which have a customer base. So suppose if someone has an e-commerce website and they have a store and they are selling their items. So we would provide them a service on which they can create. It's an online platform and it allows their customers to access the business's services through that platform. So if Flipkart comes to us, they would ask us, can you set up this whole system, the back end, the front end, and they would do that for them and maintain that system too. So that's how. So it would ensure that it is scaled up, which would mean that if even if it has like 1 lakh customers at the same time accessing the website, so it should not crash. So softwares of those kinds are sold by Salesforce.
Uh, Correct me if I'm wrong, Prastuti, that what is the end objective of the entire CRM exercise? Is it maximizing sales? Is that the end objective of all CRM initiatives?
I think that the end goal is whatever the business wants to achieve. I think that maximizing sales is also a part of it, but protecting customer data is one of the objectives. Then you have issues of it's customer experience should also be good, not just sales. All of these things work towards ensuring maximizing the sales of any product. So it's in general providing a good experience to the customer.
Okay, what is SaaS?
So SaaS is software as a service. It is basically so the company provides the entire software as a service that they sell. So the entire software that they are selling is would include it's like a package in its entirety and it is held on the cloud. So the customer does not have to store it on their own systems. That would be software as a service.
Very well. You do realize, Prastuti, that in as a civil servant, you will be earning significantly lesser
Yes, sir.
than in your job in Salesforce.
Yes, sir.
So, how do you make peace with that? Like, why do you still, frankly, want to be a civil servant? And you are only in the early stages of your career, right? And you
Yes,
could possibly reach much higher levels of uh, financial packages being offered in the private sector. Then why? What is it that is attracting you to career in the civil services?
so this was definitely a contention. Even my family asked me if I was sure of that because my father is a government servant. We have always lived that sort of lifestyle. However, I think that my thinking was that I grew up in a fairly privileged household. I had whatever I needed. So I felt that it was fine. I think that was I did not feel that that was a bad life at all. So I don't think that civil services provides a salary that is so less that you cannot live your life comfortably. So I felt that it was fine with me. And I think that the challenges and how dynamic the job as a civil servant is cannot be matched by a job in tech. So that's why I want to move towards civil services. And that's the main aim that I have because I feel that there's so much work that they do on ground and that is very attractive to me.
Very well. Prastuti, anything that government departments can learn from, how the private sector works? Any learnings from there which we can possibly implement in government organizations?
I think there's definitely a level of efficiency that is achieved by private companies that are not achieved by government offices. And there's also a lack of fear of any consequences in a lot of government offices, which feeds into the carelessness towards the providing services to citizens. which means that when the officials do not fear a loss of their job or any sort of reprisal, because everything is so slow, it happens so slowly. Even if someone files a complaint, it will take so long to take action. So nobody does that anyway. I think private sectors prioritize their customers more. So if we look at government offices as a private institution, the customer would be the citizen. So if it is centered around the citizen, I would say it would be better off. But employees, for good reason, they are provided a lot of securities, but it also uh, gives them makes them complacent.
Very well. Anything you think that the private sector organizations can, take a cue from how things are done in government?
Uh, I think that one of the major things for the government offices that they do is that how to ensure that so I think government offices, especially in India, they provide whatever government services there are to a very large population and
Hmm.
for a very low cost. So I think the lack of uh, incentive for profit and still working, although it is their job essentially, but it still does not give monetary incentive. I think that is something, because private companies, I believe, are sometimes too geared towards monetary incentive, and they work purely based on that. So that is something that they can learn from government offices.
Very well. How is a company like Salesforce affected by newer technologies like artificial intelligence? Is it?
I would say that it is also being affected the same way as all other tech companies are. There are issues like they also have an AI called Einstein AI, which
Okay.
they are trying to implement. And the problem that is currently is that they might stop hiring as much for entry level roles. So a lot of these companies are eliminating jobs by including AI.
Hmm.
Although I do think that it is more of a race, and they do not want to miss out on it. So even so, they're putting in a lot of money at this innovation, but they're not sure if it's actually going to return those dividends as much as they expect. So I think it's still something that we have to sit it out and see how it affects it. But currently I see that there are the effect is mainly on fresh graduates of computer science, which will find it difficult to find jobs.
Very well. Uh, have you been keeping track of developments in the field of AI?
Somewhat, I have been reading the newspaper. That is mainly.
Okay. What were the some of the key outcomes of the AI summit in Paris?
So, if I remember correctly, the main thing was that it was decided that we have to move towards sustainable AI. Currently, AI is not really good for the environment because it consumes a lot of water and energy to run those run requests. So, sustainable AI is something that is a priority for many countries. However, interestingly, the UK and the US did not take part in it, which is unfortunate because the US is actually one of the leaders in AI currently. So I think that that was the major thing that was decided, that we have to move towards sustainability. But unfortunately, the largest country that was investing in AI the most did not attend it.
And what is it that held back countries like US and UK? Like, what were their reservations?
I I don't exactly remember if they commented on it. However, I feel that they did not want to sign up for something because they were already investing too much into it. So they do not want to sign up for sustainability, which might prevent that development from happening, which they were investing in.
Okay. When we say Chat GPT, like, what is GPT then?
GPT is a generative processing transformer. I think that is the full form. I get confused.
Uh,
Uh,
what does that mean? Like,
So GPT is basic. Chat GPT is basically an AI software which generates text based on their training that they have done of the data that has been provided to them. Plus, it learns based on the conversations that it has. So, in very simple terms, that is the explanation with ChatGPT.
Okay, and why is this deep seek grabbing headlines, and why is it considered so path breaking? I mean, isn't it just another AI tool after all?
So, the US was the pioneering country in AI, and the government invested almost $500 billion. That's the plan, to overall invest almost $500 billion in AI. So they invested in tech companies, and a lot of money was being spent. And the processing chip and processing units by Nvidia were very expensive, and they also earned a lot of money. However, the DeepSeek that was made by China was firstly actually not even made by a company that was focusing on AI. It was a side project, and it turned out to be extremely cheap. It was around $5 to $6 million, which is very cheap compared to what
Hmm.
how much America was investing in it. And they also did it without those expensive Nvidia processing units, which means
Hmm.
that those chips were actually sanctioned by the US, so they wanted to prevent any other country from developing it. But they still developed that AI tool DeepSeek in China. So it just showed that the US bubble that was created of AI. So a lot of these companies lost a lot of money because it suddenly became their investments became redundant comparatively. So that was the major issue.
Prastuti, you think that in India we have the capability to develop our own, version of a deep sea? Do we have what it takes?
I think it is definitely being considered. The Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav did mention that we are planning to make our own AI, and they have already started their efforts in that direction. I think one of the major concerns, I think India is very good at achieving something at a lower cost. ISRO has already proved it. So I do not doubt that we can make it. The major issue will definitely be how we access those processing units, that the graphic processing units. That can be an issue because we do not manufacture any of our own. So we have to
Hmm.
work in using a supply chain that's already being constricted by other countries. So I think that would be a major challenge, but I don't think it's something that we cannot achieve.
Prastuti, can you think of any important applications of artificial intelligence in administration and governance?
Yes, sir. I think so. In firstly, it can be used in law and order situations a lot. Surveillance
If I may
techniques.
interject a bit,
Yes, sir.
I'm here, I'm listening to you, but I'll need to switch off my video for a bit, video and
Okay, sir.
audio. But I'm here, so I'll request you to keep continuing with your answer.
Okay, sir.
Please continue.
So I think that in law and order situations, we can have uh, surveillance techniques that are useful for detecting or like analyzing facial recognition. There's also the so this is being implemented in Delhi also currently, where we are seeing that it's being used in traffic lights. So they have installed cameras which use artificial intelligence to detect which cars are moving at a faster speed, and they analyze the number plate and send a fine to the owner of the car, which I think is very innovative and useful in a heavily populated city like Delhi. Apart from that, I think it can be used in education for areas that are in slum areas, if there are no teachers, or to provide education in regional languages. It can be useful in those areas. So I think it has a lot of applications in administration.
Very well. Uh, can you help me, like, analyze, are there any specific issues that women face in the corporate sector because of the gender?
So I think that there are definitely issues. Firstly, there are issues of workplace sexual harassment. We do have laws, but there are many women who are not willing to complain about it. Even in larger companies, I have seen this, that there's an unwillingness to complain and cause a foul environment. I would say they do not want to be a problem in their team. So that is one of the things. Secondly, in sectors like technology, you work in teams with very less women. So in my team, also in Salesforce, there was only one other Indian woman who was working with me out of almost 7, 8 people. So there were just two women, which was actually a good ratio compared to what we see in many other companies. So that is one of the issues too. Plus, there are also issues like the glass ceiling effect, where women cannot progress beyond a certain after achieving a certain level, especially if they choose to become mothers. So this was also observed that the gender wage gap exists mostly for mothers and not for women in general.
Hmm.
So women who decide to have children are the one who face the brunt. Women who do not have children actually did not fall back behind their male peers as much. So this, I think, this is because the expectation is more on women to take care of children. And Iceland eliminated this by providing mandatory paternity leaves to men. So if any man is having a child, they have to take leave. So I think this is a good step that was taken over there. So I think
Hmm.
these are some challenges that women face in corporate sector in India also.
Very well. Prastuti, you mentioned the glass ceiling. Have you also heard of the glass floor?
I think I have heard of this, but I cannot recall what it meant.
Okay, and what is the glass escalator, if you've heard of that?
I have not heard of glass escalators.
Or the glass cliff?
Glass cliff, I believe, I, I think it's a phenomena where a company is facing a lot of challenges and a woman is made the leader of that company. So when anything happens, it is blamed on the woman. That's seen in
Yes.
some companies.
One of the landmark legislations which has been passed recently as a step towards women empowerment, like any clue what legislation I'm referring to?
Third, it's probably the reservation of women in parliament and state assemblies.
Yes. So, what was the name of that piece of legislation?
Nari Vandan Adhiniyam, I think.
Okay,
I
Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam.
Yes, yes.
And what were the key provisions? Like, what did it provide for?
So it provides for reservation of women on 1/3 of the seats in the parliament and in state assemblies, and it says that it will happen for 15 years, and it would be on rotation, and it would also include the SC/ST OBC SC/ST reservation uh, within itself. So women of SC/ST will also benefit, and the seats would keep rotating. So the same seats would not be reserved for women every 5 years.
And does it apply to both houses of parliament or only any one of them?
I think it was only the Lok Sabha. I'm not sure about this.
Yes, you're right. It is only for the Lok Sabha. Uh,
Yes.
Prastuti, the women's reservation bill was kept hanging for many long years. It was first introduced way back in the 1990s.
Yes, so
So, what has prevented its passage for so long? Like, I mean, what are the key grounds for opposition to the bill?
so I think that even so the issue with the opposition is that we implemented it in our lower level of governments in panchayats and urban bodies, and we observed that there was the issue of the husbands or other men still controlling, even if women were made the panchayat head or sarpanch. And we did not want this on our national level, because becoming an MP or MLA is a major position of responsibility. Apart from that, I think in general there's a lack of there's less willingness to add reservations to parliament or state assembly seats, because we feel that these are the beacons of our democracy, and we want it to be organic, and we want it to be the direct election, however it happens, so whoever people choose it to be. However, I think that this step is a good step in the right direction.
Very well. Prastuti, what is your sense? Should marital rape be criminalized in India?
Sir, I think that ideally it should be criminalized. However, I do understand the unwillingness that is expressed by the Supreme Court, because the issue is that the implementation of a lot of laws are very difficult in India. We have a poor law enforcement rate, and forensics and other things are very difficult to prove in India. So, in the issue of marital rape happening, it can be difficult to prove. So, I think those are the issues that are preventing the Supreme Court from implementing it. However, I still think that there has to be. Recently, there was a case where a woman passed away due to unnatural sex, but the husband did not. Husband got acquitted of it, which I think is not at all correct, because it sets a wrong precedent in a legal in our legal system also. So I think that we should move towards ensuring that we have better law enforcement, and we rely more on forensics and science in general. And I would prefer the criminalization of marital rape also.
Very well. Prastuti, do you see any difference between the terms sex, gender, and sexuality?
Yes, so I do see a difference. uh, Sex, in my understanding, is the biological sex that is assigned to a person on birth, which is basically determined by what set of genitals they are assigned to, and what chromosomes they carry. So an XX chromosome is a woman and an XY chromosome is a man. Gender is more of a social construct, which basically depends on what roles are assigned to a person and what sort of uh, role they play in society. So gender and sex can be different in cases where a person does not feel that the roles that are assigned to that sex align with their own belief systems. And sexuality is basically what are the preferences of a person in terms of their sexual partners, which
Hmm.
can be which can be heterosexual or homosexual, and there's an umbrella term also for that. So I think these are the differences mainly between these three
Yes.
terms.
Are you aware of the policy orientation of the Trump administration on the issue of gender?
Yes, so I have some idea about it.
Tell me, please.
So the Trump administration does show a certain leaning towards Christian values in general, which might not align with acceptance to homosexuality. There is a pushback against transgender protection was there in their country. There is a pushback against gender affirming care, which could include anything from, say, sex reassignment surgery to even hormone replacement therapy.
Hmm.
And there are no, so there were government programs that protected such people, but these are being removed. And I think this is also affecting that they are even going, they have also removed certain research departments that focused on women's health,
Hmm.
which is also a negative impact that has happened.
Yes. You think in India we should legalize same-sex marriage?
Sir, I think that the recent judgment by the Supreme Court is aligned with what I feel in general also, that the parliament should decide that it should come, because the parliament represents the Indian population and it should come from the parliament. However, if my personal beliefs are concerned, that I think that there should be alternatives to same-sex couples to enjoy certain rights that come through marriage. So marriage is not just the traditional idea of it, but even apart from that, there are many rights that you get just from marriage. So be it the right to owning property as a couple together is easier when you are married, or opening even something as simple as opening a joint bank account, ensuring that the person is included in your will. So these are certain civil rights that should be accessible to same-sex couples too, without going into the area of, say, how to have children and surrogacy and all of that. That can be a civil union of sorts, can be explored, in my opinion.
So you have a reservation regarding using the term marriage, but you are still in favor of conferring various rights on same-sex couples. Do I understand that correctly?
I think that currently there is a lack of alignment in the beliefs of the Supreme Court and the Parliament. The Parliament has not said that they favor same-sex marriages. However, I do think that certain rights are a part of the right to life in general, and the Supreme Court does protect privacy. So I think that these rights can be accorded, but we cannot forget that marriage also entails things like inheritance or having children, most importantly, adoption rights, and all of those. So that opens a new door altogether, which is probably the area where Parliament should be deciding. So I think that till that is not aligned uh, perfectly, we can explore a middle path.
Very well, Prastuti. I see that you like reading English fiction and mythology. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do you think that's a good use of your time?
Yes, sir. I think I have learned a lot by reading. So I do not. I definitely think it's a very good use of my time.
Yeah. Uh, how do you, see the contributions of writers like Shobha Day or Chetan Bhagat to, you know, English fiction writing by Indians? Like, because they divide public opinion. Like some see them as epitomizing, cheapening of literature, while
Yes,
others
sir.
see them as trailblazers, who've popularized English fiction in India. So, how do you see them?
So I have actually not read Shobha Day, so I do not know what exactly she writes on, but I have read Chetan Bhagat. I would say that at the end of the day, literature is democratic. Anyone can partake in it. But I personally do not prefer reading Mr. Bhagat's book either. Um, However, it I do understand that it can be if someone wants to try out reading and say they're not comfortable with reading English classics, then they can definitely venture into that area, because the language is a lot easier for people to understand. So that can be a motivation, and at the end of the day, if someone is doing it for pleasure, then they should be able to decide what they want to read, and it's fine. So
Mm,
I think there's a certain level of condescension that comes from readers who read books that are so-called good books and classics. I
mm,
understand that, but I think that at the end of the day, it's the decision of the person to read what they want to read.
yeah. You get extra points for having not read Shobha Day. In any case, but there is a whole spectrum, I mean, between classics and, Chetan Bhagat.
Mm.
Would you agree?
I think yes, because I started reading in almost fourth or fifth class from my school library, and I actually read the abridged versions of certain novels that are very famous and were I was in a girls' school at that time, so I read Pollyanna and Anne of Green Gables. These are actually very well-known classics. And I liked them so much that I actually read the lesser known follow up sequel parts also. I have the whole set with me. I think these were, I think I'm very glad that I read those books because it really helps understand. And I keep adding more and more books that are from, say, by famous authors that are considered classics because I think they are a gold mine of information and understanding literature better. So in ninth standard, we had Gulliver's Travels. That was necessary reading actually, but I think it's a great book to read and it's a very good take on satire. It's a
Hmm.
difficult read, but I think it I found it very interesting to read. So I feel that there's definitely a difference.
Uh, do you think that, increasing the lines between mythology and history are getting blurred?
Yes, sir, I do feel so. In India, especially. So I read Greek mythology, and I think Greek mythology is very strictly mythology, and it's not considered history in most parts. So they are very clear about that. However, in India, I would say we have such a dominant tradition of mythology being a part of our daily lives, and like Hindu epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata. So there have been concerted efforts to find out the veracity of these epics, and I think there have been certain s- mm, explorations that are very interesting, like the Ram Setu being actually man-made,
Hmm.
the what which was called earlier the Adams Bridge. So I think that's a very interesting observation, and the archaeologist and historian B.B. Lal conducted a lot of research in Kurukshetra to find out about the Mahabharata. So I think that these are very good ways of analyzing how our oral traditions and literary sources aligned with what actually was the history. Um, I think there is definitely a lot of mystical elements that were added by the people themselves and however the stories were transmitted. And we still do not have conclusive proof to say they were history, because there
Hmm.
are inconsistencies, but I think the lines are blurred and there can be scope for more research for in this area.
Prastuti, also, is there a overall decline in, culture? Like earlier, at least in the educated segments, you had a thriving reading culture, but that seems to be declining significantly with, social media and the bites culture that we are living in. So, um, is there anything that the administration can do or should do to revive reading in the general population?
Uh, I do not have any statistic to prove it, but I feel that this issue is actually even more dire among men. Women, I think, are still reading a little more even if they read fiction, but men, it seems in general, they only start reading much later on in life compared to in school days. So I think one of the things that the government can do is encourage reading books that are aligned with that age group of people. While Travels is a great book to read, but I don't think a lot of people were able to understand the English, that sort of English that is from 1700s England in ninth standard, and a lot of
Mm.
people became demotivated from reading it because it was so difficult to read. So I think that there should be an encouragement to read books, both English, Hindi, and other regional languages. And it should be from the very start, from say second or third class. There should be encouragement to read. I definitely feel that it's a declining culture, and a lot of youngsters are not reading as much, or even if they read, they do not know where to start. So they may start with, say, books like Chetan Bhagat. So, which can, I think that it's not a good start. I think everyone should start with classics. So that can be something that should be pondered.
Yeah. I see that you've been a student of sociology.
Yes, sir.
So, Prastuti, tell me, who's your favorite sociologist?
Out of the main sociologists that we studied, I think Max Weber was the one I agreed with the most.
Very well. And could you list the names of some of the books authored by Max Weber?
So his most famous work was Protestant Ethics and the Spirit of Capitalism, which basically sees the similarity between Protestantism and capitalism. Apart from that, he also wrote about the bureaucracy, but I do not remember the name of the book. And his ideas on state are actually from a lecture. They are not from a book, but he mentions his definition of state, which I find very intriguing. That he says that state is actually the only authority that exercises the monopoly on violence.
Hmm.
Uh, I think that that was a very good idea, and I felt that I was very fascinated by it. So I read it was not from a book; it was from a lecture, and I have added that lecture in my to read list, but I have not read it yet.
Very well. Does Weber also comment on Hinduism and how it affects economic behavior?
Yes, sir. So Weber explores two aspects, that there should be one, material factors should exist, and then the factors that are around that religion. So he suggests that, say, a religion like Judaism provided the spirit for capitalism, but the material was lacking. So they did not move towards capitalism the way Protestants did. For Hindus, he actually says that that even though the material was there, because India is a India used to be a rich country, but the spirit was not there, because the Hindu religion focuses more on rebirth and karma and death being a very major part, and how the entire the temporariness of life is very focused on. So that's why he feels that these things did not encourage capitalist society in India. However, he is actually critiqued by, I think, Milton Singer, I believe. He says that there are actually castes like the Madras Chettiars who were very capitalist, and so I think that's a good critique of his, that he missed out certain elements in Hindu society who were
Hmm.
actually capitalist. So
Very well.
that.
Prastuti, could you tell me some latest developments in the field of sociology?
I cannot recall anything, but I think that feminist sociology has been developing I think, very fast in the past few decades. There's a rise of actually radical feminism in even social media circles that I observe, that are anti anti exploitation of women's bodies, and very radical in their beliefs. It's a fringe part, and like the 4B movement in Korea, all of these are part of the radical feminist theory that is there. So I usually end up being interested more in feminist theory. So these are the developments that I saw in that area.
Any Indian feminists who you've liked, whose writings?
Um, I think I am actually forgetting her name, but there's a feminist author who wrote about the Devi dichotomy, which is a interesting take, that how Indian society is actually very open to worshipping female deities, which is not seen in other parts of the world that much.
Hmm.
However, there's also a dichotomy where women face a lot of violence. So the reason I liked this was because I have read books in mythology which actually align with this belief that the women have the status of women have consistently declined from ancient India to current modern India also. Especially in medieval India, it was very less. So in ancient India, it was better because the religion originally supported empowered women more. But I think that idea is very good. I'm forgetting her name, unfortunately.
Very well. So, thank you, Prastuti. ठीक है. And when is your interview?
11th April.
You have decent time.
Mm.
So, and also, have you filled up the form for this year prelims?
I have, but I don't think I'm very sure if I would be appearing. I have filled the form.
ठीक है.
Mm.
So, I would say you're a very good candidate, and I wish you all the best.
Mm.
In case there is any input that you need for the interview before it, or in case you appear for the prelims, then for the sociology optional.
Mm.
After the prelims, if you need any sort of conceptual clarity or any inputs on your writing skills, etc., feel very free to get in touch. Yeah,
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
all
Sure.
the best.